Welcome to session 11. In session 11, we'll be looking at security and personnel. Security and personnel. On completion of this, we'll be able to describe where and how information security functions should be positioned within organizations. We'll be able to explain the issues and concerns related to staffing and information security functions. We'll be able to enumerate the credentials that information security professionals can earn to gain recognition in the field. We'll be able to discuss how an organization's employment policies and practices can support the information security effort. Okay, when implementing information security, there are many human resource issues that must be addressed. We'll look at the issue of positioning and naming, look at the issue of staffing. We'll also look at assessing impact of information security on every IT function. We'll look at integrating solid information security concepts into personal management practices. Then we would want to know that employees often feel threatened when information security program is being created or enhanced. And we'll find out whether this should be so or not. So we'll look at positioning and staffing with security function. The security function can be placed within 1, the IT function, 2, the physical security function, 3, administrative services function, 4, insurance and risk management function, and 5, the legal department. The information security should balance the duty to monitor compliance with needs for education, training, awareness, and customer service. Now, selecting personnel is based on several criteria, which includes some not within the control of organizations. Now, many professionals enter security markets by gaining skills, experience, and credentials. At present, information security industry is in a period of high demand. We are in an era where persons who are security inclined are being sought for, especially with regards to information security. Now, so what kind of qualifications and requirements are there, or do we need to be able to staff the information security function? For establishing better and higher practices, we require the following. General management should learn more about skills and qualifications for positions. The upper management should learn about the budgetary needs of information security function. And also, IT and general management should grant appropriate level of influence and prestige to information security. Then, organizations typically look for technically qualified information security generalists. Still, with regards to qualification and requirements, organizations look for candidates who, first of all, understand how an organization operates at all levels. We are still talking about how staffing of information function happens, and we are looking at qualifications and the requirements. And we've come to realize that organizations look for candidates who understand several things, one of which is they look out for candidates or persons who understand how an organization operates at all levels. It means that you're looking out for people who appreciate and understand what is going on each level, and not just where they are going to fit. They also look out for people who understand information security and the fact that it is usually a management problem and not a technical problem. They look out for candidates who understand importance of strong communication and writing skills. And they also look out for the role of policy in guiding security efforts. They look out for most mainstream IT technologists. And finally, they look out for the terminology of IT and information security. These are all qualifications and requirements that are looked out for by organization in candidates whom they seek to employ. And it goes on and on. Just to mention a few, they look out for information security persons who understand threats, how to protect the organization's assets, how business solutions can be applied to solve specific information problems, and so on and so forth. Now, the entry into the information security profession itself is what we want to look at next. Now, many information security professionals enter the field through one of two career paths. With regards to information security, most people enter this profession first and foremost by law enforcement and the military. So they go through the service, or by technical means and working on security applications and processes. So many people enter the information security profession through the law enforcement or military, that is the service, or by technical means when they find themselves working on security application and processes. Now today, students select and tailor degree programs to prepare for work in information security. So there's been a shift. Now you find that institutions have tailored programs where students can pick on to be able to shape them to build themselves up for such a profession. Now organizations can foster greater professionalism by matching qualified candidates to clearly defined roles in information security. Now let's take a look at information security positions. Now, the use of standard job description can increase the degree of professionalism and improve the consistency of roles and responsibilities between organizations. So if you look at Charles Crescen's Wood's book on information security and responsibilities made easy, it offers a set of model jobs and descriptions. So you might want to take a look at this book and look at how the information security job description looks like. So these are the positions in information security at a glance. We have the Chief Security Officer, we have the Information Security Consultant, we have the Information Security Manager, the Physical Security Manager, the Information Security Administrator, Information Security Technician or Engineer, and then we have the Physical Security Officer. These are all positions in information security for those of us who are wanting to have a profession in this field. Now, the following slides go to give a brief detail on this chart. So, like I recommended in the previous slides, taking a look at this model, you see this chart, we have the Chief Information Security Officer, the CISO, CISO, you have the credentials for such a position available, we have that of the Chief Security Officer, CSO, we have that of the Security Manager, we have the Security Technician, and so on and so forth. So you can go back to the recommended text in addition to the book on the previous slides to help you to be able to have a detailed description for those of you who are wanting to go into a professional career in information security. With that said, we'll move on to the credentials of information security professionals. What are some of the credentials? Now, many organizations seek industry-recognized certifications, and most existing certificates are relatively new and not fully understood by hiring organizations. There are so many organizations who are looking out for people who are certified or have professional certificates in so many courses, but most of these organizations do not even have a full understanding of some of these certificates and how to hire people with some of these certificates that are new or that they do not fully understand. So what are some of the certificates out there that you can seek to acquire to be able to find yourself skilled in information security? We have lots of them. From the ISE certifications, you have the CISSP, we have the SSCP, we have the CSSLP, the Associate of the IC. As you can see, all stated. So for those of us who are interested in a profession or acquiring professional certificates in information security, you might want to take a detailed look at some of these. You can search them up and look at ways and places where they are offered that you can take to be able to add on to your professional certification in information security. The certificates go on and on and on. Then you might want to take a look at the cost of the certification that you want to pick up, and so on and so forth. Now let's look at a bit of advice for information security professionals. The first one we want to note is that always remember that there's business before technology. Technology exists, but if there's no business, there's no implementation of technology. That's one advice that we might always want to have at the back of our minds. There is always business before technology. Technology on its own will stand and do nothing, but with the business, the technology can be implemented to a business to allow for the business to run. Another is that technology provides elegant solutions for some problems, but only exacerbates others. Never lose sight of goal. The goal here for information security, as far as professionals are concerned, is protection at all times. Be heard and not seen. Be heard and not seen. Know more than you say. Be more skillful than you let on. This is something you might want to take very seriously. As far as information security professionalism is concerned, make sure that you know more than you are saying. And also make sure that you are more skillful than you let on. Speak to users, not at them. Speak to users and not at them. Then your education is never complete. Remember that no matter the number of certificates you go for, if you want to be an information security professional, you will never finish your education. You will always be in the education stream, going for training, adding on to what you know. So your education is never complete. Let's take a brief look at some employment policies and practices. An organization should make information security a documented part of every employee's job description. On appointment of every employee, every organization, as much as possible, should make information security a documented part of the employee's job description, so that they know exactly what their contribution to the securing of information organization is. Now, management community of interest should integrate solid concepts for information security into the organization's employment and policies and practices. Free information perspective, hiring of employees is a responsibility laden with potential security pitfalls. So from the information perspective, hiring of employees is a very big responsibility which has a lot of security pitfalls. So management might want to be very keen on the policies and the practices that they use for employment. Then the Chief Information Security Officer and Information Security Manager should work with Human Resource Department to incorporate information security into guidelines used for hiring all personnel. So these are all practices and policies regarding employment that organizations are supposed to have in mind. With regards to job description, the integrating of information security perspective into hiring process begins with reviewing and updating all job description. It means that all job descriptions within the organization for all personnel must be reviewed to include information security aspect of it. With regards to interviews, an opening with the Information Security Department creates a unique opportunity for the security manager to educate human resource on certifications, experience, and qualification of a good candidate. So it is important that the IT manager of a company has the opportunity to educate the human resource on the experience and qualification that a good candidate who will fit a job regards to security entails, so that with that they will be able to run research knowledge during their interviews for a new candidate into the company. Same applies to the kind of background checks that should be done. The organization should be conducted before organization extends offer to a candidate. Each time they are considering wanting to employ someone, they need to make all these checks and so on and so forth, because security is key to every company. So you need to be careful to know whom you are employing to fill what position, especially if they are going to fill the position with regards to information security within the organization. Do same with the employment contract Once the candidate has accepted the job offer, employment contract becomes an important security measure, and so on and so forth. These are the usual guidelines and processes that are supposed to be run through by every organization before they give an employment out to anyone. Then an orientation is supposed to be given to every employee that is given an appointment into the company, and giving with regards to their level of access and when they should start, when they should end, and all the details that lie therein. Every organization must realize that as part of the training of its employees, there should be on-the-job training for them to be able to keep them up to speed, especially keeping security at the forefront and keeping the security in the minds of the employees as one of the most important parts of information security awareness as a mission for the company. Then we should be able to evaluate the performance. Organizations should incorporate information security component into employers' performance evaluations. Every time there's a performance evaluation organization, employers must have in mind that they need to add that component of information security to be able to evaluate and know to what extent their employees have been able to adhere and help to enforce information security in the organization. Now, when someone leaves the organization or has left, security-related issues arise. The key issue is continuity of protection, because such persons have had access to some security documents, practices, and so on and so forth in the organization. After having delivered their key cards, and other business properties, the employees should be escorted from premises and so on and so forth. Any credentials that is leading to them must be terminated so that they can't have access, and so on and so forth. These things must not be ignored, because ignorance of any of these things can cause a threat to the organization. And so many other things, the departure, including resignation, retirement, promotions, so on and so forth, relocation, all these things are supposed to be well noted by every organization, so that in its happening, the persons that are involved do not become or pose a threat to the organization. Let's now turn our attention to security considerations for non-employees. Individuals not subject to screening, contractual obligations, and eventually secured termination often have access to sensitive information of the organization. Relationship with these individuals should be carefully managed to prevent possible information leak or theft. This is very true. Persons who work within an organization who have not gone through any screening, any contractual obligations, the kind of relationship that is built with them must be done very carefully, so that information that is not supposed to be privy to them is not leaked onto them, because at that point they pose threats to the company because they have information that they are not supposed to have. Then temporary employment. When someone is hired by the organization to serve in a temporary position or to supplement existing force, often not subject to contractual obligation or general policies, if temporary employees violate a policy or cause a problem, possible actions are limited. We find some of these problems arising. Anytime there's an employment made, the employee who has now been given the appointment, if it's on a temporary basis, they are usually come with a different kind of contractual agreement. Organizations must be very careful how they go about handling such people, especially when their contracts are terminated and so on and so forth, so as not to make them a threat to the organization. Now, the temporary employee supervisor must restrict the information to which access is possible. So such persons must not be given access to certain sensitive data, which they are not supposed to have because they are temporary employees. Same applies to contract employees, consultants, business partners, and so on and so forth. Now we'll take a look at internal control strategies. Internal control strategies. Now, separation of duties is a cornerstone in the protection of information assets and the prevention of financial loss. This is used to reduce chance that employee will violate information security. It stipulates that completion of significant tasks requires at least 2 people. So you don't put all your eggs in one basket and make one person an overall person who is in charge of all the controls and is the only one who has the highest rank to be able to have access to sensitive data. By doing that, it's risky. So most organizations have 2 people. So for an action to be taken on certain access levels, you require that 2 people, or 3 in some cases, come to a consensus, or they consent before an action is taken. And there are 2 main controls. We have the 2-man control, where 2 individuals review and approve each other's work before the task is categorized as finished. Then we have the job rotation, and the employees know each other's job skills. So it ensures that no one employee performs actions that cannot be physically audited by another, and so on and so forth. Then we have the least privilege. Only employees with real business need to use systems information that are allowed to do so. We'll look lastly at the privacy and the security of personal data. Organizations are required by law to protect sensitive or personal employee information. This includes employee address, the phone numbers, social security numbers, medical conditions, and family names, etc., etc. Information security groups should ensure that these data that they have received at least at the same level of protection as the important organization data. So when you collect personal information from your employees, you should keep them as safe as you are keeping the sensitive data of the organizations. With that said, we want to have a recap of what we have talked about so far. We looked at positioning the information security function within organizations. We've looked at the issues and the concerns about staffing information security professionals. We've looked at professional credentials of information security professionals. We've looked at organizational employment policies and practices related to successful information security. We also looked at special security precautions for non-employees. We looked at separation of duties. Then finally, we looked at some special requirements needed for the privacy of personal data of employees. With that, we come to the end of this session. Thank you very much.